President. To my good friend, the senator from the 19th. I wish he would have came not with that binder clip of the tax credits, but he would have came with a binder clip with that fiscal note. That would have helped me really understand the math on what we're doing. I'm a public school graduate, and I want to make sure that I can do the math right, because what we're talking about is about billions with a B. So I want to make sure that somebody a little smarter than me can give me a report to tell me the exact intended consequence or unintended consequence or the lack thereof of what this will do for this state. Now, I've got serious concerns about Senate Bill 476, and if I could listen to my grandmother this morning, she would tell me I was born at night, not last night. So I want to be clear about this. I believe everybody in this chamber wants Georgians to keep more of their hard-earned money, but that is not the debate. That's not the debate about Georgians keeping their hard-earned money. Instead of raising the wages so people have more money, we said we'll just cut taxes so that you can hopefully get some more money. But see, I did some quick math, and I realized that the largest gains would be to those higher earners because they get to exempt more. But if you are an average Georgia citizen, robbing Peter to pay Paul and hope John don't ask for his money back, how that's going to work for you? So then I thought about, well, maybe businesses, maybe they'll see the impact. Then I thought about small businesses and how this would affect them. And then I thought about the ramifications of what could or could not happen. And then I just went back to last week. Didn't have to go far, just last week. Last biennium, we came with some property tax measures that we negotiated that was a 2/3 vote. And I've been in this chamber, this is my 6th session, and we came back and we made a revision to that 2/3 vote, and we did it by general law. So then I said, well, if we're going to make these reductions, somebody's going to have to come up with a little more money. Then I thought, well, we got to come up with some more money. I could argue where the money would come from if I had the fiscal note, because then I could see exactly what the impact would or would not be if I had it. But since I don't have it, I'll just have to speculate, because if you make the cut here, there's only 2 ways to raise revenue. You either raise taxes or you find new revenue. You raise revenue. Well, compared to those other states that were referenced, their sales tax is a little bit higher. Well, then I thought about my good friend that owns a restaurant, and I was sitting down with him talking at his restaurant, and I came to understand that he had to pay sales tax for the next year on money he hadn't earned yet to the state. He had to prepay sales tax to the state in the next fiscal year. So that money is sitting in the Department of Revenue, and that's how we can make these revenue projections. So then I thought, well, if we have to raise the sales tax to pay for it, how are those small businesses going to get the money? Because we project for them what the future earnings will be. And they come up with that money out of their own pockets before the fiscal year ever shows up and before they ever collect the sales tax in their business. So now I wonder, what about those folks? Because sales tax affects everybody. So now the question becomes, does this bill cut taxes responsibly, or whether it will create a structural hole in Georgia's budget that future legislatures will be forced to fill? Now, colleagues, I am not running for a statewide office. I intend to come back to the 2nd if the folks in the 2nd hope that I come back. But there are many in this room who are going to be running on a statewide ticket, and on both sides of the aisle, they won't have to answer this question of what do we do next, because they won't be here in the next. You and I, colleagues, will be the next. So now many of them will be gone, but some of us will still be here to pick up the pieces of what's left of this bill. And you can't blame somebody that's no longer in the chamber, because folks are going to want to know, well, what did you do then? You can't say, well, this is what they did back then, because they're going to say, well, what are you going to do right now? Right now, personal income tax brings in about $16 billion a year. That's nearly almost half of our general fund. So this absolutely makes a change that's very dramatic in this system. Now I want to know, why can we not do something about paying folks a livable wage? Instead of worrying about how we're going to cut taxes, why can't we make sure that folks actually make a wage that's decent and honorable for the work that they do? So we're saying that taxes are the problem, but I would assure you taxes wouldn't be the problem if folks had a little more money. But when you don't have enough, you're already trying to figure out how to make it enough, how to make it work. And so if we're going to lower and cut the income tax rate, it sounds good, and for the families who are already at the bottom of the tier, they may not see the largest gains. But I did the math, they may save about $1,200, be about $100 a month, and at the same time, you cut the low-income housing tax credit, you make it the affordable housing tax credit, but ain't nothing affordable about it. Because if you give me an extra $100 and you cut the credit and you decrease production of the amount of units available in this state, then where are they going to take that $100 when people, when you want to go rent an apartment, want you to have 3 times the salary? Well, where are they going to get 3 times the salary? And we hope and believe that corporations do the right thing if you cut those taxes for them too, right? We've heard that before. We've heard trickle-down economics, and I'm going to tell you, my family's been waiting on trickle-down economics, and we ain't seen nothing trickle down yet. So what does it also mean? Independent estimates said this could reduce the state revenue from anywhere from $3 billion to $9 billion every single year, even after accounting for the sales tax changes in this bill. Let me repeat that, $9 billion. We'll cut the affordable housing tax credit, give folks a little bit, and when they get to the grocery store, they'll realize the little bit they got still ain't enough. Housing production, when we talk about that affordable housing tax credit in the state, we're not like other states because we have a gratuities clause. The gratuities clause says that you can't put money in the budget for a direct entity in the budget. So guess what? We can't be like Florida and provide loans on top of their 9%. The reason the state of Georgia matches dollar for dollar to the 9% affordable housing tax credit is because we get to punch above our weight and compete with states like Texas and Florida. And I know some will come to this well and argue, but we're making those developers so rich. Well, if that was the case, we'd have affordable housing all up and down the street. Problem is, you don't make that much money in affordable housing. And there are very few that do it, because if it was so profitable, everybody would be doing it. But that has no comparison to market rate. So we'll cut the affordable housing tax credit. I have learned, colleagues, that folks are good at doing one thing and saying another. We'll give you $1 and take 20 right back and smile and say, didn't we help you today? But last year, I thought about some other votes that we took inside of this body. If we wanted to be serious about affordability and helping folks to get ahead, we absolutely wouldn't just stick it to them. We would work to raise the state minimum wage. We're $5.15, federal standard is $7.25 an hour. And then some will say, but nobody pays that. But people base their computations of how much to pay based off what the lowest available minimum wage is, if we wanted to do something about it. But $9 billion in our budget at risk. And you want me to believe that this is going to be the best solution to come up with that. But when it falls short, we're going to raise them sales taxes. So we're talking about, how do we offset this? Most of these credits will be eliminated in 2032 or some. You know what, I'll be honest with you, I agree we absolutely should eliminate them. But I tell you what, that affordable housing tax credit is not something we should eliminate, because folks are already telling us they cannot afford rent right now. Maybe in some of our rural parts, folks may be able to afford rent, but I'm gonna tell you, in Savannah, the rent is sky high. Child care, sky high. How did we figure that folks wanted us to cut the income tax first when folks are telling us, look, we'd go back into the workforce and we could just afford child care? We would absolutely do all of these things if we had some housing that was attainable, some housing that was affordable. You got folks that say we can't even afford to buy a house. Why? Because when the banks go to lend the money, they want to know how much salary do you have. They don't care about if you pay taxes, if you don't pay taxes. They want to know, what is your gross annual income? We ought to be figuring out how to give folks a larger gross with increasing the wages in this state, not stagnating and saying we're going to benefit the most top-tier folks. So over the next several years, we'll absorb these cuts if you vote for it, and if you'll still be in the chamber with me, and Lord willing, and the creek don't rise, I make it back and you make it back and we're still here, maybe we'll get together and hold hands and say, what happened here on this day when you voted this out? So what do we cut? Do we cut education? Do we cut health care? Do we slow down transportation projects? Do we shift more costs on local government? Because we know we can give school systems unfunded mandates. But I just want to be honest, when income taxes go down this much, something else always go up. So if we cut affordable housing, starting in 2027, at a time where rents are rising and working families are already stretched thin, robbing Peter to pay Paul, and now we're going to take one of the only tools we have available to increase housing supply, we're going to cut that. This affects teachers, seniors, first responders, and families that want to stay in their communities. Because if you know some folks who are senior citizens, they'll tell you they live on what? A fixed income, meaning the money is set, it's fixed. I only got what I got, and I got to work with what I got, and that's it. There's no magical bailout for folks that are senior citizens. So this bill doesn't just cut taxes, it impacts folks for generations to come. It restructures the entire revenue system, and it would lock in permanent losses. It removes future flexibility, and it shifts the risk onto the very services that our constituents rely on. Tax relief has to be balanced, it has to be sustainable, but it should not be a mortgage payment on Georgia's future where the note may come due and we bankrupt the state. For those reasons, Mr. President, I cannot vote for SB 476 in its current form because I'm not willing to vote for bankruptcy. Because maybe some folks in this room got monopoly money, but the folks I know are rubbing a few nickels together trying to make ends meet. And with that, Mr. President, my folks are robbing Peter to pay Paul and hope John don't ask for his money back. But it seems that in this bill, we don't know who to ask for the money back because we're going to be paying everybody. And with that, I yield the well.